Hi everyone, welcome to SheR Explores Season 2. And this one, we're just going to talk to experts about community.
And today's guest is Saurabh Garg. He's our very first guest for the second edition of our podcast. He's a serial entrepreneur who spent over 20 years in marketing back when AI just meant Adobe Illustrator, or maybe even beyond. He's built multiple communities, and we're part of one that we really love called Freedom Project. And currently, he's at an entrepreneurial venture that he shifted to at the end of 2024. Hi, Saurabh. Welcome to the podcast.
Next, okay, thank you so much for having me. I typically don't do podcasts because मुझे लगता है ज्ञान तो बहुत लोगों के पास है. I'm very very happy to be here. In fact, the largest reason why I agreed to this podcast was because when the two ladies here came to me for the first time, I don't know how we met. They said that we want to do a community specific business in India, and I was like कि ये लड़कियां दोनों पागल हैं. Purely because a it's a very tiny niche, and I do not know why somebody would chase that tiny niche of community in the country, and b they said that we will focus very very sharply on that. And second, community needed somebody to be looking at it from a super expert, super deep, super focused kind of an effort. So I think I do whatever I can to support Sheena and Rihanna.
So, we have this signature question that we want to ask everybody, which is what do you believe is the absolute truth about community?
Oh wow. Okay, so absolute truth about community, no, is okay. Couple of things come to my mind. So one is community is like a individual, like a human being. The way us humans take birth and then take shape in our in personalities and evolve as individuals and then reach a peak and then sustain that for a while and then we sort of die down. I am sincere believer that communities are similar. They need to take shape, they need to take birth. The birth often happens through a reason of the entrepreneur, of a cause, of a passion, of a shared trauma, if I may. There is a reason for the genesis of the community. Then the community starts growing, and then at a point in time, it starts serving the purpose. And then with time, that community that we know either ceases to exist or it evolves into something else altogether. But the genesis has to be a shared trauma, a shared experience, a shared need, a shared conversation, a shared challenge, a shared business objective between the ones who are building the communities and the ones who are going to be part of that community. So that's one absolute truth that is undeniable about community as a whole per se. That is one. Second, it's not a truth, but it's an anti-truth that I think is a very very important thing that people don't realize is that a community is not a WhatsApp group. A community is not a Discord channel. A community is not a, I don't know, man, whatever tools are available to us to organize people into one place. Those places are used to be town squares back in the day. Then it became courts, and then it became parks, and now it's become WhatsApp. So communities are not the tool. Communities are a lot more than that. So these are the two things that I'll start with.
Okay.
And I agree. I'm a strong believer of community takes time and you cannot contain people in a container. But yeah, like you can't do that. And I want to go so much deeper. But before we do that, I want you to kind of take me back to the start. So you've been in the industry more than we have. You've seen how the role of community has changed, right? Where have you seen these changes happen at like what incidents? Maybe you can tell us before you even knew community as a word.
Cool. Okay, so I'll start. So I started my life as a very very avid gamer and reader of comics back in the day. मतलब जब मैं छोटा था तो I remember I used to go to this neighborhood bookshop and I would rent comics for 1 rupee a day. I do not know how if the two of you can even imagine that or not, but imagine a neighborhood shop where you go and say चाचा चौधरी की जो नई किताब आई है 1 रुपया आप किराए पे मेरे को आप दे दीजिए. So that is my introduction to, let's say, pop culture, if I may, or popular culture, not pop culture per se. Then at the same time, I was growing up around lower middle class part in Delhi, and we used to go to this place wherein that guy would give us airtime to play video games, Super Mario for like 1 rupee for 10 minutes and blah blah blah. So my first exposure to community happened at that Bhima ka video game shop. It is still there. If you Google for the Bhima video games, Dilshad Garden, you'll still find that guy, and he's still there. So my first thing about community came from there. So what would happen is that because I didn't have the money to buy the airtime for the longest time, I would just go stand and see other people play the game, and in the other people playing the game was my joy. आई वुड बी लाइक कि यार मैं तो नहीं खेल पा रहा हूँ, बट वो इंसान खेल रहा है, उसको देख के बड़ा स्वाद आ रहा है मेरे को. आई एम हैविंग अ लॉट ऑफ फन विद दैट पर्सन's गेम प्ले. And each time that person will make a move which is great, I would be like, fuck, what a great move. And each time he and invariably boys, because obviously back in the day men were playing video games, each time he would fall down a pit which he could have easily avoided, I would be like, yeah, bakwas kar raha hai yaar, he doesn't know how to play. So for me, that was the first sense of community. And often I would go oohs and ahs, and the player would look back and say, तेरे को आता है ना, तू खेल के दिखा मुझे, मतलब then it became a competitive thing. So I, without knowing the word community, got bounded into this thing called भीमा गेमिंग के पास बात कर रहे हैं. एंड देन इट बिकेम अ कन्वर्सेशन पॉइंट. सो वी वुड कम बैक होम एंड वील कीप टॉक ऑन द वे, विल टॉक अबाउट, अरे उसने ऐसा खेला और उसने ऐसा खेला, एंड सो फोर्थ. एंड देन फ्रॉम देयर ऑन आई मूव्ड टू क्रिकेट एज अ कम्युनिटी. From there on, I started to see music emerging as a community building opportunity. I was a big fan of Lucky Ali growing up, and I built this website back in the day, a fan website of Lucky Ali. And because of that, I was able to connect with tons and tons of people from across the world who were fans of Lucky Ali. And that was my second, let's say, taste of community per se, wherein all of us were passionate fans of Lucky Ali as a musicians. And then things moved from there on. So back in the day, we didn't use the word community. We just said that we were fans of a thing, got together, and we shared our interest, love, hatred, frustrations, anger, joys of being that thing. So that is where it started. Now moving to marketing, right? So my first exposure to marketing happened while I was doing MBA. And again, my the word community comes in very, very strongly there also. Again, we didn't use the word community, but we used to use it, we used to call it groups. So there was this website called pagalguy.com. I do not know if it's still there or not. Oh, you must look it up, man. It is every MBA student in that era is like a member of that forum, pagalguy.com. So I was joining MDI, and there was a group of people who were going to go to MDI, and all of us went to Pagal Guy and said, मैं 2004 में MDI में admission ले रहा हूँ, let's meet up. So we met up at, let's say, one place or whatever, and became my that eased my entry into my MBA college. Because before I went to MDI, I could find three people who I knew, because I was coming from, let's say, a kind of a lifestyle, kind of a a home wherein it was overwhelming for me to go to a fancy B school and be myself. This eased me into my MBA life, MBA education. So that's the role that the community played for me. I'm talking of me as a beneficiary of the community, and me as a giver to the community. And I ensured that the next time somebody used Pagal Guy, I would say, "हाँ बता क्या करना है तेरे को." And again, that is also an important tenet of community. If you realize, each example that I'm giving you, I'm trying to pick one tenet of community building, and I will add it towards the end of it. So that is how that happened to me. Then once I went to MDI, the next thing about community that came to me was that I realized that MDI, at MDI, every person who's passed out of that college even 20 years ago would be kind to us. If I would send a cold email to somebody who's an alumni who passed out in, say, 1995, कि sir मैं MDI का current student हूँ, I need help, they would respond immediately, man. And these are people who are like CEOs of big ass companies. And I realized that they were not responding to a Saurabh, they were not responding to a first year student. They were responding to a person from the college that they went to. And for them, they had this strong affiliation to a place wherein they had learned their management skills, and they had grown from there on. So that was the next example. Then I had to move for work to Chennai. Now I'm from Delhi, grew up in Delhi, all my life in Delhi. Suddenly I'm in Chennai, wherein I don't speak the language, I cannot tolerate the heat. I was sort of detached, I couldn't find my footing there. And it's a I mean, I'm trauma dumping on a podcast, but I was not able to find my footing. And where I went to find a semblance of home and sanity? A North Indian community of people eating parathas by Marina Beach. Now, I could find a community of North Indians who loved parathas, and after eating idli and vada and dosa for like 3 months, I found a paratha place, and I was like, "Yehi bas jeevan hai." So the point being that, again, I didn't know the word community. So if you were to add all of those things, I don't think none of these were things that were planted by a community manager. It was not created by a brand. It was not built by a business. These just happened because they happened to be there, in terms of A, making you feel belonged, B, giving you a sense of identity, C, opening doors for you, D, giving you some sort of base footing per se, and E, you are giving back to that without any ulterior motive. Now, each of these is like a core tenet of a great community that you can build. And in fact, you mentioned that in your playbook also, that these are the tenets. I don't recall all the tenets, but this would be a large overlap in terms of what you've written. If I were to recap, now in terms of marketing, I've grown up on Orkut, and I've seen from Orkut I've gone to a Facebook, and then from Facebook I've gone to Instagram. And I remember the time when people would say कि अरे Facebook पे आओ, Facebook पे celebrities होते हैं, and they will only add you to 5 or 6 people on their handles. So that became a thing. From Facebook it became Instagram. So I've seen marketing evolve from one big brand TV campaign which will run on TV on large events. Back in the day, IPL was not even there. I mean, IPL is now the cultural phenomenon of the country. It was not there, so it would run on large Diwali. There's the Diwali campaign, Eid campaign, Christmas campaigns, and all those campaigns. What you would do in marketing there was you would put this 80% of your budget in making a large film with a superstar brand ambassador, and then you will ensure that all the that film was shown everywhere: cinema halls, hoardings, pamphlets. This is the time when TV would only come for like 4 hours in a day on TV. In those 4 hours with Doordarshan and ZTV and so on and so forth. From there we moved very very fast into doing on ground stuff. Then online happened, and then as we know it, suddenly uh, the doors were open and the water started gushing in of the marketing. So what happened was that from a broadcast, marketing being a broadcast tool, all you had to do with marketing was make a TVC, put it out, and you hoped like hell that people will see it and remember it. Suddenly, thanks to internet, the marketing thing became a two-way street. You would put content, and people would look at it, and people would react to it, and people would give you inputs, and people would look at that and say good things or bad things, and talk about that. This is when the first time the branded community conversation started to come into popular parlance. Back in the day, I do not know if you remember, there used to be this thing called sunsilkgangofgirls.com. I still remember that. It was the earliest examples of somebody trying to build a community around uh, a shared cultural identity. Sunsilk said that we will create something called the Gang of Girls, wherein we will bind young women who want to use Sunsilk, and we will talk about hair, and then we'll build an entire website and meetups and pata nahi kya kya around it. This is also the time wherein a lot of these bloggers will meet up and bind themselves in communities. We still weren't calling it community marketing per se, but people started to find other people that shared interests. So I didn't know it was a community thing, man. I had no freaking clue it was a community, but it is exactly what we today recommend to our clients. That अगर आप फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरे डेस्क पे पेंसिल पड़ी है स्टेशनरी की बात पढ़ करते हैं इफ आई एम अ स्टेशनरी ब्रांड मैनेजर एंड इफ आई वांट टू बिल्ड अ कम्युनिटी आई वुड से दैट लेट्स फाइंड super passionate fans of stationery and the outcome from stationery and get them to come to a place and do doodles and writing workshops and la 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 all of those things, right? So you will get them on shared interest, get them to do a shared activity, and then hope like hell that they will enjoy working with your product, and then that will become a thing for you to uh, build fans and then hopefully do businesses. Back in the day, the communities started with individuals with no business motives trying to scratch their personal itch कि यार मुझे उन लोगों से मिलना है जिनको stationery पसंद है, so I'll build a stationery community. And this was happening on Facebook groups, and this was happening on emails, and it was happening on BBM.
Yeah.
WhatsApp was still not there. So that happened, and then suddenly, I mean, if I were to like take a leap of time from that 2005 6 4 to let's say now, suddenly we have like I have like 15 tools to build communities on. I am on Discord, and I am on Slack, and I am on WhatsApp, and I am on Insta. I have a group on Insta, I have a community on Insta in DMs also. I mean, like, क्या चल रहा है भाई, हर जगह community बन गई है. So obviously it has become the truth of marketing, and obviously a lot of things have changed. That marketing has changed from a push first kind of a tool in the arsenal of marketers to a pull kind of a conversation wherein you want to consume only those brands that you probably associate with at a deeper level. If there's a brand that is you don't relate to it, you don't consume it. So communities have become a lot more important because you want to show to your potential customers कि यार मेरा जो तुम्हें फेस दिखता है ना वो टिप ऑफ द आइसबर्ग है, बट देर इज सो मच मोर बियॉन्ड my visual visible identity that you could relate to. So like for example, Quiet Luxury is a business that only sells on community, but this is how evolution of communities happened in my perspective, and today it has become a indispensable tool if you want to be a marketer or if you want to be a business to run. Only thing you need to do is find people who are genuinely inherently passionate about your your business and your interest area, or your uh, uh, maybe trauma for that matter. So yeah.
No, I think you've given me like a perfect segue, right? Because communities have become like all important for not just like brands, but for people to, I think, communicate with one another, right? Especially post pandemic when everyone's now struggling to find organic community. They're now turning inwards into digital communities. I want to ask you your top three recommendations for somebody building a community.
So first things first, you need to be able to define the personality of the community. Is it going to be an authentic community wherein everything goes? Is it going to be a gated community wherein you are the boss and you will control the conversation flow? Is it a community wherein you will only put in verified conversations, and what that means is members verified hai, content vetted hai, जो उसका impact है वो vetted है. So first things first, you need to have this documented personality of vibe of the community. And I can give examples of various communities that I am aware of. So Anshika runs a community called Decoding Draupadi. It's a women's only community. I don't know if there's a documented code or charter of community, but what I know for sure that there is various kind of conversations that happen there, wherein some are filtered, some are gate kept, some are closed room, and yet there is openness and flowiness there. So that is one thing to do for sure. So that is indispensable. You cannot build a community without this charter, code of conduct, code of conversation before that. Second thing, which is extremely important in terms of building a community, is that you need to be extremely clear, at least in your head as a builder, कि community के कितने levels of access हैं और हर level of access पे किसको क्या मिलेगा. For example, if you are a member of a community, what is it that you can expect to get out of it? What is it that you would be able to access? What is it that you will be able to communicate about? So that's a member thing. If there's a moderator, like think of a typical Reddit community. On Reddit, there are some communities wherein you can only post if you have a certain number of karma points. Now that's a code that they put in, and despite the code, you need to have you're clear कि मेरे को पोस्ट करने की अपॉर्चुनिटी तभी मिलेगी जब मेरे पास एक सर्टेन नंबर ऑफ कर्मा पॉइंट्स. सो दैट्स द वेरी क्लियर indication of what people would get and what you will be able to sort of give to them. If you are an admin, if you are the owner, if you are a beneficiary, what is your I don't want to use the word rights here, I don't want to use the word responsibilities, but people should be clear that what are they expected. So each community that I recommend, encourage, help, I tell them that make it extremely clear and visible to all stakeholders what is it in for them and why are you building this community and what's happening there. The third thing which I think a lot of people miss is that it's extremely easy to build a community, but it's extremely tough to keep the momentum going. So do not build a community without knowing how would you do the sustenance part of it. It's very easy to make a WhatsApp group and say chalo hum pass log community mein aa gaye, but then what happens to that? So the sustenance piece has to be built at least for, if not 6 months, then at least for the first quarter, and then let it emerge from there on. Most brand managers, friends of mine, who work with like super large companies, handle insane budgets, and yet do not know this basic thing. Like this guy comes and says कि हमें बहुत समझ में आता है इंश्योरेंस, एंड आई हैव बिल्ट अ कम्युनिटी ऑफ 10,000 पीपल हु आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इंश्योरेंस ऑल द टाइम. मैंने कहा कहाँ कर रहे हैं बात, दिखा मुझे. ही ओपन्स दिस ऐप एंड उस पर सिर्फ रैंट हो रहा है. मतलब मैंने पॉलिसी डाली, मेरे को कॉल नहीं आया. Like I'm like that dude. That's not community, man. Your community has degenerated into a customer complaint forum that is happening because you didn't plan for it, and there is a way to go about doing that.
So when it comes to like brand building and product building, all of these things, you're talking about customer service, right? Like that's something Sheena and I also talk about. That if you have a product, if you have a service, and you're building community, at some point it is inevitable that an aspect of customer service bleeds into community, right?
Absolutely.
How do you demarcate, like make that like clear distinction, or what do you think a brand should be doing so that community stays in this, it's in its essence community, and doesn't become like a customer service
Cool.
platform?
There are many dimensions to answer this question, and I'll give you some dimensions to it, right? So, like you rightly mentioned, and spot on. Thank you for saying that any community you build invariably would have the tacit expectation of service. Okay, so Woo. Now, You know what tech brands do? Whoop also does that. They will create this entire forum wherein people are helping other people. Unki customer service kaam hi nahi kar rahi hai. If I need a Whoop, there are people who are searching for, is Whoop good for you? And there are people like me who are passionate users, community members who have been empowered by Whoop and given, let's say, some bit of visibility. I will go on the forum and respond on behalf of Whoop. And this is very, very prevalent in the technology space. It is not so prevalent in the non-tech space because techies probably are nerdies and they want to do that. But if you can build a community now, Sheena and Rihanna, if you can build it in a way wherein customers recommend that business to others in the community, that is the magic sauce. If you can get to that, bro, you've done business objective conversation for the brand. If you can get that win, nothing like that. So coming back to this conversation, so first things first, you will degenerate or you will have to do some bit of customer service. Second, if you can enable or empower some of your users to become power service people, and they will do it because they want to do it. The third way to look at that is, which is probably a brand first thinking. I don't want this to be imposed to every brand, but if your brand is, let's say, open in nature, like they say that we are a honest brand, let's say whole truth. If there's a whole truth community, they better be responding to customers in that community tool itself. चाहे वो WhatsApp हो, offline meetup हो, website हो, Twitter हो, they better be responding there. If it's a honest open brand, but if it's a brand which is luxury guarded, let's say Louis Vuitton, then Louis Vuitton needs to be playing the concierge role, acknowledging that, hey, you know what, we take the note that the handle of your bag is broken. Somebody from our care team will get back to you in 24 hours or whatever, 4 hours जो भी diet है SLA है, and we'll resolve it. And that is where you end it. So depending on what your brand stands for, you can take the two extremes, and there is something in the middle. Like for example, if you work with a med tech brand or health brand, I don't think they're waiting for 15 hours for you to get back, and there has to be quick resolution. Then you can build FAQs and you can build a helpline. Like one of my clients for community back in the day, I had the head of sales on my speed dial to call him and say, sir, ये problem इस customer ने इस जगह से भेजी है, किससे बात करनी है? And we were able to resolve problems in like less than 1 hour when I was doing that. So if I were to recap it in like 3 or 4 ways, I would say yes, it is an imperative that you have to be doing service. B, you should try and enable and empower your power users to be your custodians of your business brand, etc. And C, depending on what your brand stands for and what is your brand's, let's say, whole vibe, you could then identify um, what is the right way for you to go about it.
A lot of brands, like you rightfully said, don't think long term, right? They think, आज मैंने ये WhatsApp group किया है, I'll call 5 of my friends and the community will grow from there. And one thing that I feel they lack is thinking about if they have enough runway in terms of money, right? Because a lot of brands kind of ask their social media manager or their content manager to use Claude or GPT and then kind of become their community manager. And that's just one of the many things that I feel founders हो या brand manager हो, कोई भी इतना long term नहीं सोच रहा है. What do you think founders should consider when they're building a community?
So I will. My answer may not be the best answer for you as a business, Rihanna and Sheena, but I'll. I'm a friend, right? So here's the thing. हर चीज का ना टाइम आता है. मतलब देयर वाज अ टाइम व्हेन आई वेंट टू अ क्लाइंट एंड सेड फेसबुक ग्रुप बनाएंगे आपका, दे वुड लाइक ये फेसबुक क्या है, छोड़ दीजिए हमें. And obviously the best example is somebody saying the telephone is not needed. There'll be total of 5 phones that will ever sell in the world. I don't know if you know this quote or not, but yeah, ऐसा है ना. तो कम्युनिटी जो आज है ना, शीना एंड रियाना, आज कम्युनिटी की औकात नहीं है. Nobody cares about community and they don't think of it as a long term strategic conversation to be had as as a brand manager, business owner. But a time would come when it will become an imperative, and the service providers like yourself, if you can stay till that time, I think it will be okay. I'll give an example. Social media agencies, आज से 10 साल पहले, 10 years ago, there was nobody who said social media is important for us. They would still do TVCs and they would still do prints. But all the young people who built social media agencies 10, 15 years ago, today are like obviously or like taking over mainline agencies. So what's happened is that uh, we are still not there wherein brand managers and business owners appreciate the importance of community, and the time of this idea has not so far come in the mainstream. So that is one. Two, there are few who know that ये कुछ buzzword है, होना चाहिए, करना चाहिए, lalla, etc. etc. Now you rightly mentioned they assume that it could be done by their social media teams. Also, not to shit upon anybody, but there are a lot of people who've come to me and said that we will run communities for you. And when you ask them what is your credo in terms of running a community, they say that I have a WhatsApp group of 18 young people who are on Instagram and who know each trend that's coming. Now, great for you, man, but that's not what a community is in my sense. The sad part is that the brand managers also do not understand that community is deeper than a WhatsApp group or access to 15 people who are famous on Instagram. So that's two. So if you're a brand manager, what you should do is you should be able to carve out a certain budget, which could be tiny to start with. मतलब जितना तुम सोशल मीडिया पे डाल रहे हो, आई थिंक सोशल मीडिया इज like bottomless pit. You can keep spending money on it and there is no end to it. And if you have a large proportion of your budget allocated for, let's say, paid media, even if you take out 5% of that budget for the next 6 months and put that on community, and it could be through any uh, specific expert on community, मतलब share हो या share नहीं हो, sorry for this bad joke, but it could be any company that you hire, but you must make that as an investment. Think of it as domain parking. Like if you have a business called share, you would want to block share.com, sharecommunity.com, sharemarketing.com, and so and so forth. So it's like वो हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कि कुर्सी पे रुमाल रख दिया मैंने. That's super important, that you have to have one leg in the community space at some point in time, and it cannot be a half-assed job. You cannot expect a intern, you cannot expect a social media manager to run their community for you. Somebody with specific community thinking skill has to uh, run that ball. I mean, सबको community पता है, buzzword पता है, सबने बात कर ली है, everybody's heard that. But what happens below the surface is the question. It's deeper than saying that I have a WhatsApp group जहाँ पर मेरे 15 customers बैठ के बात कर रहे हैं. Like that is where I think we are at. I mean, this is early days of community marketing. The way 15 years ago there was social media marketing early days. In fact, funny, that just came to me that in the post AI world, community will become even more important because लोगों के पास time ही time होगा उसके बाद. Like I will have all the time in the world. What would I do? I can only watch so much content. I can talk to so many people, but I will have to be social and be animal about it. We are end of the social animals, right? I would want to go and talk to people about a video game or a college that I went to or a film that I saw or my love for stationery or my insurance problems. So people will become a lot more active on communities. I think it will be an interesting time for your business for sure, Sheila and Anna. So that.
People are also facing AI, I don't know,
Fatigue.
frustration, fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah, fatigue would be the right word. I think I saw like a survey that says marketers are on top, right? Because we have to use AI. Even if we are just scratching the surface of like getting ChatGPT to write Instagram caption or write a LinkedIn post, we are so tired of it. मतलब आप LinkedIn पे जाओगे, you will see 10 people writing, they have written the same post using the same prompts, and you can tell it's all AI. So I really feel that community कहीं नहीं जाएगा. आप लेके आओ कोई भी AI tool.
Yeah, I'll give you a funny example. So Anshika was trying to hire somebody for PR at Decoding Draupadi, and I have access to the form that people are filling in. Some 90, 100 women have filled in that form, and उसमें there's a question that what do you think of Decoding Draupadi as a business? And there's a question whatever. I kid you not, 80% responses have the same three keywords. And I can send you a screenshot. I will send you a screenshot. So I told Anshika that next time shortlist करना है ना, ये तीन कीवर्ड shortlist कर ले, filter लगा, इनको remove कर दे, and nobody will get through that, and you will know this AI is wrong. So that is bad joke. But coming back, I have a counter view on what you are saying. There are people who are putting shit on LinkedIn written by AI, and obviously good for them. Yaar, who am I to stop them from doing that? So what will happen is that thanks to AI, we will have so much free time that we will not even think about what is somebody else writing on uh, Twitter and LinkedIn. We will probably be a lot more away from machines in the post AI world.
I have this feeling, right? I think we're in that, like at the cusp of that somewhere. Maybe not at a tipping point per se, but at this intersection where people are realizing, okay, so much of content is the same drivel. Everybody's talking about the same five, six things. And I think that's where the audience maturity also exists for community, right? I think people within the community, right? Community members themselves don't know how to harness a brand community. They don't know how you can what you can ask, what you can talk about. I think a large part of like the struggles of where our work comes in is we try our best to behavior model, but people are not open yet, right? That I want to draw like a parallel to Instagram of 2016. You didn't have as many active brands, but you had some brands, but people wouldn't interact with these brands the way they do today. I think we'll see that shift happen in community in another 2 3 years is what I want to say, right? I think that's when that the early adoption will pass and we'll come to like a mass adoption, and then people will understand, okay, this is what I can do in the community. Maybe that'll like ease a little bit of our work in terms of awareness of how to behave in the community, I guess.
You'll be surprised with the vanity of people there. Like if you were a brand and you were to interact with like there is like if you're a Swiggy or a Zomato or a buzzy brand and you respond to any person's tweet or handle, you will see them talk about that for sure. So I don't think that vanity piece will go away. That joy of interacting with the brand will go away. Also, one more thing that has happened that we should not forget is that the world has become a lot more performative and a lot more show offy and all of that, and that is why communities will continue to be important facets of what we do as marketers. It's our moral responsibility to push things that nudge the world in a certain manner. As a brand manager, we have a huge responsibility, and if we do shitty work, if we do shitty things, we propagate shittiness in the world.
I just wanted to like touch upon one thing. So I agree with the whole vanity bit. People who have reached a certain saturation on Instagram or people who've reached a certain point in their life will realize maybe I don't want to be on Instagram and look at the same uh, 4 or 5 people doing the same thing, talking about the same thing, suggesting products that are probably paid by ads. I need to be in a safer space, and they will like come towards like these brand communities at least, or they'll try to become like the first 100 loyalist of the community a brand is making, is my very like hopeful asha.
Okay. So, because everybody wants to be an influencer, everybody wants to have some sort of a following, right? They have this like thought that having an audience is equal to having a community. But it's not true. It's easier to build like 100 followers on Instagram than it is to get your 100 like loyalists as a community, right? Do you have like some tips, or what is your thought process behind?
So there is this guy called Kevin Kelly. He has an essay on the internet called "1,000 True Fans." If if anybody is getting into the community business, they have to read that essay, "1,000 True Fans." It is a very simple essay. He says if you're a musician, if there are people who are 1,000 people who will buy your record, who will come to your live concerts, who will buy the merchandise that you release, who will buy every CD you drop, you will make enough money to not worry about dal roti for rest of your life. So that is what he says. And I think what Rihanna आप जो बोल रहे थे, it is exactly in that space, that having a following of 50 million people but having a zero fan, 1,000 true fan is a questionable mark. And segueing into the question that you asked me, that how do you build those fans? The answer is fairly easy to communicate, but very very difficult to implement. So I'll tell you what I am doing for myself, and I'm talking about Saurabh right now, and not about say my businesses or my work that I do. So I want to believe that I can call Rihanna and Sheena as part of a true fan club of Saurabh. And what that means is if tomorrow I open a Substack saying that, hey, Rihanna, I will release one letter every week and I want you to pay me 100 rupees for that, Rihanna will pay. If I said, Rihanna, 1,000 rupees de, she will think, because 1,000 rupees could be important for Rihanna as an individual. If she had the ability, she will not think. If I tell 10,000 de, Rihanna will say, fuck off, bro. I don't think that value is there. So Rihanna is a true fan for me for 100 rupees a month. So if I told Rihanna ki that newsletter that I write for you for 100 rupees is behind a paywall, and if you like what I do, you will pay for the exclusivity. Now, exclusivity in terms of either a photo or a video or a meet and greet or a dinner or whatever, right? And think of it as merchandise of rock stars. You go to a Hard Rock Cafe, you want to see the guitar that Bruce Springsteen signed and it's been kept at Hard Rock Cafe in Dubai, and you actually go and take a picture because you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen, correct? That's how that is one thing to do. Second thing, you need to be able to get them to be invested into your life. रियाना, यू नीड टू एज अ फैन, यू नीड टू नो कि मेरे 100 रुपए से ना सौरभ की लाइफ को फर्क पड़ता है, मेरे 100 रुपए से सौरभ की लाइफ की डायरेक्शन चेंज होती है. So moment you own something, you are invested into it. The reason why people my age, I'm 43, people my age are not having kids and getting plants and pets and cats and dogs is because we want to invest into something, and that something today happens to be a plant. Tomorrow, I'm sure it will be a digital product. You make other people invested into your community's business success. Like for example, if I were running this stationery business in the community, I will ask my followers that I am trying to launch the next line of stationery product. I would love to take your feedback, but for that, I want you to pay me 10 rupees and come to my office. You'll be amazed how many people will convert into a paid customer, and then from there on, once they buy this, they will then get to all all of your things. They will start becoming true fans. Third, you have to celebrate those people. I have to give a shout out. Have you seen these influencers give a shout out to their fans? Why do they do that? You need to give them these artificially scarce titles and tags that they can latch on. So you celebrate those people. That's the third thing that you have to do. Fourth thing, once you do that, you need to be extremely consistent. Now, consistent doesn't mean that you do weekly conversations. Consistent could be that you do at a certain cadence. There is a guy called Tim Urban. I love that guy. A website called waitbutwhy.com. He publishes essays in like 4 months. Like every 4 months, he'll publish one essay on his website. Every 6 months, he'll publish an essay. But you'll wait for 6 months for that guy to publish an essay and say, कि यार wait कर रहा हूँ भाई लिख के दे मुझे तू. He's not doing it every day. He's not going live every day and every hour. If you say that you will do it every day and you don't do it for a week, it's a problem. So you need to become that consistent in behavior for your customers. I think इन चार चीज़ों को अच्छे से कर लेंगे ना, तो we'll be able to build something very very interesting. And last tip, if I were to give you, think of your community and your fan as two individuals. You know how, like, look deeper inside as friends or colleagues, as business partners. You expect the other person to be what? Honest, trustworthy, fair, the values that you value. You need to be knowing that this is what my community stands for, this is what my fans will stand for. Let me offer that, and look at them as individuals. Each of your community members should have one-to-one conversation. I met this guy yesterday. He runs a 5,000 crore company, and he has got 80 lakh customers. And these customers are touched by some 500 700 distributors in the country. He knows the names and the birthdays of 800 distributors in the country, and the guy is worth 5,000 crores. Like, imagine when he meets a distributor for the first time, he will say, अरे शुक्ला जी कैसे हो, आपकी बेटी लास्ट टाइम आया था तो स्कूल में थी, कॉलेज हो गया उसका. The man will be floored कि 5,000 crore का आदमी मेरी बेटी के बारे में पूछ रहा है. Similarly, if you are my community member, if you DM me, I should be able to say, hey Rihanna, last time we spoke, you said na you'll come to Bombay. What happened to that? Your community must behave and act like a people person. You need to raise individuals, and that is where I think the magic is going to be.
If I had to ask you, like, one key difference between an audience and a loyalist or a community member.
Customer is somebody who has no emotional investment into you. A fan is somebody who's emotionally invested into you. This pencil, let's talk about this pencil. If somebody said this pencil breaks in 3 uses, if I'm a customer, I'll say, हाँ यार हो सकता है चाइनीज माल होगा पता नहीं क्या, who cares. But if I'm a fan, if I'm a community member, I'll say, dude, maybe your case is unique, maybe it broke for you, but for me it's been working well, and for everybody else I know it's been working well. Look at Royal Enfield. I use this bike called Royal Enfield, right now. It is the worst bike ever made. The one I have, the newer ones are better. The one I had is the worst bike ever. Oil leaks and engine breaks, and yet when somebody said, "Do you want to buy a Royal Enfield?" I would say, "Why not? Matlab, you should buy it." Whoop. It is expensive as fuck for somebody like me also, man. मतलब 35,000 रुपया साल का लगता है इसका. And yet I am encouraging people to say, "Here is my coupon code. Use it." Do I care about 2,000 rupees of coupon code to be given on your blog? I don't. But I am a loyalist here, so that's the difference. If you're a customer, you don't care about what happens to them. But if you're a fan, friend, community member, you are emotionally invested in that person.
Brands now are not focusing on the right things to build a community. And this is where I wanted to ask you, Saurabh, where do you think the future of the community is?
What these new age brands call community is essentially a sales channel, and it's a thin line that separates the two. Like the question that you specifically asked me in terms of how and what these things could be, what needs to happen is that community needs to be looked at as a sales and business enablement tool and not the sales tool. There's a thin line of difference between the two. So you are not a sales tool. You're not a a salesperson who will stand on at the shop and sell the product. You're essentially an enablement tool. You are like a brand book that has been given to your business to run. You are like a poster that is being put on the wall to be able to for other people to see and react to. So that nuance between a sales enablement and a sales tool needs to be clear to brands. The job of a community should be to bring a customer who's not going to ask too many questions to the sales team and make sure that sales happen very fast, because in the community that person would have learned that this skirt is, I don't know, made of the greatest fabric possible, is priced reasonable, is going to be comfortable, will not lose shape, jo bhi char panch cheezein important. So the customer would have known about those things, and the customer is only going to the sales counter, online, offline, wherever, to to close the conversation. So community has to take you to the edge and not close it. So that is one. What is happening right now with all the influencers is probably the attempt of sell. Like I see a lot of these influencers saying that buy with my coupon code, you get 20% off, I get 5% off. जो boop कर रहा है मेरे साथ, right? Now that is a sales tactic. It is not a community tactic. I don't go to community because I want to be sold to something. In fact, the other day, one of the VCs in the Silicon Valley actually put a very, very interesting tweet, and there are all sorts of people who are talking for it and against it. He said that all the paid media that you do is not building your business in the long run. They bump up the sales for that window, they bump up the sales for that short period, but they don't let the loyalty get built with a lot of for a long, long time. So that is your answer. I think this nuance between sales and sales enablement has to be identified, and that is where the answer has to be. That's my thought.
I have, I think, one last question now to you when it comes to community, which is if there's one piece of feedback or one takeaway you want all brand communities to consider, what would that be?
I will probably say that think of your community as a long term investment in the business, and don't shy away from thinking about it ASAP. मतलब वो बोलते हैं ना, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. So the best time to build a community was yesterday. Damn, that is not prophetic at all.
And before we end, SG, let the people know what you've been working on and where they can find you.
So my name is Saurabh. As you would have known by now, the best way to know about me is on my website, saurabhgarg.com. I am a jack of all trades and I'm proud of it, and I don multiple hats. You can find all those hats on my website, and you will be able to see, I suspect you'll be able to see something that you like for sure, because the wide range of things that I do, you will always be able to spot something interesting for yourself there. The other thing that I love a lot is I love talking to people. I would love to chat with you. On my website, you will find a contact page. Drop me an email. Let's talk. And if there is anything I can do to help you do more with your life, please reach out. And I hope that I am of service to you as well. That's it. And